Look up at the canyon walls of Wall Street. You see granite and marble, steel and glass, towering monuments to wealth and ambition. You see the city that never sleeps. But what if I told you that the very DNA of this modern metropolis was forged not by a boom, but by a catastrophic blaze that almost erased its financial heart? The true, deep history of New York City isn't found just in the ledger books of its bankers. It's hidden in the geological choice of its foundational materials, a choice born from disaster. This is the story of how the Great Fire of 1835 killed the wooden Dutch colonial city and gave birth to the stone, unshakable American capital we know today. The wooden city and the fateful gale. In 1835, New York was a booming, chaotic, and desperately vulnerable place. The Erie Canal, completed a decade earlier, had funneled all the wealth of the American interior, lumber, grain, and manufactured goods, directly into Lower Manhattan. Pearl Street and Wall Street were packed with new five-story warehouses, often filled with dry goods, cotton, and barrels of flammable oil. Most buildings were constructed in the traditional manner: wood frames, brick facades, and highly combustible roofs. Then came the cold. On the night of December 16, 1835, Manhattan was gripped by an extreme cold snap and gale-force winds. The fire started, as so many great fires do, in a warehouse on Merchant Street, now Beaver Street, near Wall Street. A burst gas pipe or a careless ember met a dry goods store, and disaster took hold. The circumstances turned a bad fire into an apocalypse. The wind, gale-force winds blowing at over 30 miles per hour, drove the flames relentlessly toward the East River and through the tight, crooked alleyways of the financial district. The water. Due to the extreme cold, the East River had frozen over and the city's primitive water mains were useless. Firefighters and all volunteer corps were reduced to using gunpowder to blow up buildings in the path of the flames, a desperate, terrifying measure used only when all else failed. The fuel. The modern fireproof buildings of the era were worse than useless. Witnesses described the new warehouses, often fitted with iron shutters and doors, becoming immense, superheated furnaces. The intense heat actually melted the copper roofing, which ran down the streets like liquid lava. By the time the fire finally burned itself out 17 hours later, the result was staggering. 17 city blocks, nearly 700 buildings in the heart of the financial district were completely incinerated. The loss, over $20 million, was an unimaginable sum in the 1830s, wiping out almost every major insurance company in the city. The birth of the unshakable city. The Great Fire was the crucible. Faced with ruin, New York's merchants and bankers made an audacious choice. They would not just rebuild, they would fortify their city against its own history. The tragedy sparked two massive, interlocking infrastructure projects that literally changed the city's geological composition. One, the Croton Aqueduct, the water of immortality. The first and most urgent lesson was water. Within months, the city launched the construction of the Croton Aqueduct. This engineering marvel, finished in 1842, brought fresh, reliable water from the Croton River 41 miles away down to Manhattan, ensuring the city would never again be helpless against a blaze. The celebration when the water finally reached the city was legendary. 2. The Great Stone Shift, the etching in stone. The second, more subtle but equally profound change was architectural. The city passed strict new building codes, fundamentally banning the flammable wooden construction that had made the fire so devastating. New York City, particularly the financial district, began its pivot to hard, fire-resistant stone. Granite, the phoenix material. The primary material of choice became granite. Quarried largely from places like Quincy, Massachusetts, granite was difficult to work, but virtually impervious to fire. Its heavy, dark solidity became the signature of the commercial buildings that rose from the ashes. Look at the surviving Greek Revival and commercial-style buildings downtown. The granite piers, thick walls, and massive lintels are a direct, defensive architectural reaction to the 1835 fire. The marble facade of power. As the city grew north and sought to symbolize its new unassailable power, it turned to marble. While marble wasn't fireproof, its association with classical grandeur made it the ideal veneer for monumental structures. The stunning Federal Hall National Memorial on Wall Street, for example, used local, brilliant white Tuckahoe marble, linking the city's financial dominance to the democratic ideals of ancient Greece and Rome. The stone-faced banks and exchanges that followed were meant to project one message: what was lost in the fire has been replaced by something that will last forever. The legacy in concrete and stone. Today, as you walk past the Federal Reserve, the New York Stock Exchange, or even the ancient Trinity Church graveyard, you are walking through the physical manifestation of a city that chose endurance over expediency. The fire of 1835 did not simply burn down old buildings, it burned away the old city, forcing New York to mature from a rough-and-tumble colonial port into a global financial fortress built on granite and marble. Every heavy stone facade, every meticulously restored brick wall, whispers the same historical truth. New York City's ambition is carved in stone, a geological promise that the financial heart of America, once almost lost to the flames, would never break again.